I'm going to start this meeting. The general public and participants should be aware that this meeting is being videotaped by WRPS. Let's see, where the hell am I? 7:30, open meeting. I need a roll call to open the meeting. Let's see, who do I got first? Actually, we have full board this time. Myself, Greg, Chuck, Tim, and Mr. Baker Jr. Before we open this meeting, I'd like to formally introduce Robert Baker Jr. He's the newest member of the zoning board. I just want everybody to say, hey, how you doing? And again, just a formal welcome. Here we go.
Thank you. And Bob will be just fine. Thank you.
You got it, sir. All right. I need a roll call vote to open the meeting. We're going to start off. Myself, yes. Mr. Tanzi?
Yes.
Mr. Hessian?
Yes.
Mr. Haynes?
Yes.
And Mr. Baker Jr.?
Yes.
Okay. Let's introduction on remote participation. We've already talked about it. So here's the legal ad. Remotely conducted continuance public hearing on the amended petition filed under Chapter 40B submitted by Conrock LLC, care of Walter B. Sullivan and Comerford PC, 80 Washington Street, Building B, Suite 7, Norwell, Mass. 02061 for the zoning variances pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 40A, Section 11, and subsection 415-81.9, and also subsection 415-47A, plot and lot sizes 415-47C, General Act 415-48B, boundary line and internal street setbacks 415-50D, land use density, and 415-52 required open space. The subject premises being located at 365 Concord Street, Rockland, Mass. More specifically, Rockland Assessors Map 6235, map 62, lots 35, 36, 41, 42, 43, 44, and 46, and is located in the R1 residential zoning district. The owners of the property are Daniel Delpreet and Christine Delpreet, 365 Concord Street, Rockland, Mass. and Delpreet Realty Corp. The proposed project involves the construction of 40 market rate single family homes that will be the subject of a further application to the Rockland Planning Board for a planned unit development. A complete copy of all application materials, plans, and other documents may be accessed at the following link. I'm not reading it. All right, I was forwarded. Where the heck is it? They, again, we were talking about it before. There was, they did not get any application, any reapplication materials, no new plans. So they formally requested a continuance. I'm going to read the letter. Please find this email as request for continuance of the 11-4 hearing on Conrock LLC's application for a month, to be able to submit plans with ample time for the board to review prior to the hearing. Should you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact our office. Thank you, Kayla A. McLeod, Sullivan and Comerford PC. And that was last Thursday. It was dated last Thursday, which was the 29th. So I would entertain a motion to continue.
Motion to continue the hearings to the first meeting in January.
All right. So we got number one. We got a motion. I would entertain a second.
I'll second.
All right.
Hold on. It's got to be a date certain and a time certain. And let me give you the dates. The first Tuesday in January is January 5th. And the second meeting would be the 19th. Those are the two dates.
Kim, are we free on those dates? There's nobody else?
Nobody yet, I don't think.
No, I don't think so either.
Sorry, I was talking and I was on mute. Yeah, there's nobody else.
All right. Go for the later date.
January 19th.
1/19.
I'll amend that motion to January 19th. At
7:30.
At 7:30.
Very good, Mr. Baker.
I've got a motion. I need a second.
Second.
I got a second on Mr. Hessian. So, and just I guess, re-update here. Voting members on this were myself, Mr. Tanzi, Mr. Hessian, Mr. Haynes, and Mr. Baker, not Mr. Baker Jr. We have to go with who's already on voting on this. So I need a roll call. Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Myself is yes. Mr. Tanzi?
Yes.
Mr. Hessian?
Yes.
Mr. Haynes? Mr. Haynes?
Timmy's muted.
Is it? He also looks frozen. He's not moving.
Oh my God, get the paddles out.
He's froze up.
You have a sufficient vote, okay, from the 4
Yeah.
members that have done it.
Okay.
So I think that can go forward, okay, because it's only continuing.
All right. So we
But
have
you don't want to. If Mr. Haynes is sitting on the next meeting, you want to make sure that he's able to hear everything and participate.
Absolutely, sir. All right. So we have a vote. Anybody that was waiting to hear about the 365 Concord Street application, the applicant formally requested a continuance. We've granted that continuance to January 19th, 2021 at 7:30. If you want to stay on for the next hearing for Cresco Labs, please feel free. If you want, have a good night. We got 5 minutes to chill.
Just a point of order, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Do I understand correctly, because I hadn't been involved in this matter before, I can't vote on it now?
On Concord, no.
Yes.
So, Mr. Baker Jr., Bob Galvin here. You can participate in the discussions, but you wouldn't vote.
Oh,
on it.
absolutely.
Okay.
Okay, and the reason I can't vote is because, again, I wasn't involved prior.
Right. You've missed more than one meeting where this was discussed.
Okay,
We do allow, if you, for some reason or another, you're not able to participate in a meeting on a new matter that you'll be participating in, you're allowed to miss one meeting, provided you certify and sign a document indicating you've read the materials and reviewed the meeting minutes or watched the videotape of the meeting, and then you can participate fully.
okay. And am I similarly situated in the next matter coming up too?
No, it's
Cresco's, this is their first hearing, so
Okay.
this is
Very
right from the beginning. You'll hear the whole project, and if for some reason, Mr. Rose is going to designate who's going to sit on this, but you are the regular member, isn't that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so you'll sit on this one fully.
Okay, thank you.
I'm back if you missed it.
Hey, Mr. Haynes.
Internet crash.
It is what it is.
We had you staring at all of us.
I know. I should have taken a screenshot. That was awesome.
It was the other way around here.
Oh, really?
Nobody's moving. I'm the only one moving.
Well, ignore the 911 call then.
All right, where are we? All right, 3 minutes. 3 minutes, 3 minutes, 3 minutes. All right, so there's that. Put that away for now. That. Just that. Don't care about any of that. Care about that. And let's see. That's not it. That's it. Come on. There we go. Oh, there he is. Right there. There it is. Come on. There you go. All right, I have 7:45. Here we go. Remotely conducted public hearing on the petition filed under Chapter 40A submitted by Cresco HHH LLC, also known as Sunnyside, for a special permit pursuant to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 40A, Section 9 and 15, and subsection 415-19C19, and also subsection 415-38.5. The subject premises is located at 1015 Hingham Street, Rockland, Massachusetts 02370, more specifically Rockland Assessors Map number 4, Lot 11, and is located in the H1 Industrial Park Hotel Zoning District. The proposed use project involves an adult use marijuana establishment engaged in the retail sale of marijuana and marijuana products, and a proposed 5,008 square foot commercial building with 22 parking spaces, all in accordance with the site plans, and will be the subject of a further site plan application to the Rockland Planning Board. Interested persons are encouraged to participate remotely as a consequence of the current public health emergency. The applicant and all interested parties are advised to check the town website and the zoning board's webpage for additional information and details. Further details and plans for this project are on file in the town clerk and zoning board's office and may be viewed by appointment by emailing the zoning board at zoningrocklandmass.gov and online at that email address. Okay. Voting members on this will be myself, Mr. Tanzi, Mr. Hessian, Mr. Haynes, and Mr. Baker Jr. Kim, you got that?
Yes.
Thank you. All right. I got a lot of people on here, so I need to know who is taking the lead for Cresco.
I'll be that guy, Chairman Rosa. My name is Christian. How are you?
Not too bad. How do you pronounce your last name, sir?
It's Ficara.
Ficara, Christian Ficara with, and you're with Cresco?
Yes, sir, I am.
All right. Just for the record for our secretary, so she knows who we're dealing with here.
Okay.
Before we get going, what I'd like to do is we have a new board member that doesn't know the history with this piece of property.
Sure.
So I'd like to just kind of rehash that just real quickly so everybody knows. This piece of property has been before us several times this year. So I just like you, and maybe you guys don't know this, so maybe this is some new information for you guys. I don't know. Kim may check me on this, but basically somewhere around February or March, an application came to us on this piece of property for a retail establishment. There was no lessee that was going to be coming in. They just wanted to do straight retail. We told them no until you get somebody in there so we know what we're granting. They then came back to us looking for variances, which we gladly gave on a plan. Let's see. The first plan set was February 19th of 2020. The revised plan set that we granted variances on for this piece of property was May 7th, 2020. They then went to planning board to get site plan approval. That plan set was dated May 15th of 2020. Planning board finally gave site plan approval on August 18th, on a plan set dated August 18th of 2020. Just want you to know that this has been through the town. We kind of know, everybody who's kind of seen it. So And I just wanted, again, Mr. Baker Jr., I wanted him to know that there was some history with this. So
Yeah,
the board has seen this piece of property many, many times. We don't know who you are. We'd like to know who Cresco is. I've done a little bit of looking. I like you guys so far based on what I've seen. Please start your presentation. Feel free
Mr.
to
Rosa,
share your screen.
one preliminary matter for Mr. Baker Jr.'s background.
Yes.
The variance that was granted related to the setback of the building from the rear property line. The building, as proposed, was situated too close to the rear lot line. And we had a setback requirement issue. So when they initially applied, they didn't ask for that variance. The property owner was advised that they needed to request that variance. So procedurally, Mr. Rosa was 100% correct. But the nature of the variance that was granted was to allow the building to be closer to the rear lot line than the bylaws otherwise require.
There was a
Just
second
curiously,
variance
if you-
involved too, wasn't there? I'm pretty sure
I think they may have asked for two-dimensional variances. It might have been a side and a rear setback.
I know it was definitely the rear. I thought it was the because there wasn't a 10-foot. There was a section that wasn't a 10-foot buffer because they were doing something with the parking lot. I think that was the other one. I'd have to look back, but I know that, and I'm pretty sure that there was two. But
Yes.
that's what it was.
Bob, there was one for the 10-foot parking lot from 10 foot to 1 foot
Okay.
and 30 to 27.6 for the side and the rear, I'm sorry. And the rear was a 30 to a 15, which we granted.
Right.
Thank you, Mr.
Okay.
Baker. I appreciate that. Mr.
Thank
Baker Jr., do you have any questions about that?
No.
Okay. Mr. Ficara,
Yeah.
go for it.
Thank you, Chairman Rosa. Would it be okay if I shared my screen quickly?
Absolutely. I think that permission's already been granted by the host.
Okay. Give me 1 second. Let me just tee this up for you. Can everybody see that?
Got it.
Fantastic. Okay, well, let me start off. Thank you, Chairman Rosa, and members of the board. It is a pleasure to be with you guys tonight. And I also want to take a minute to thank Mr. Bob Galvin for all of your assistance. You've been incredible to work with, and we really appreciate your guidance through this process. It's been seamless, and we appreciate your responsiveness there.
Thank you.
Like I said before, my name is Christian Ficara. I'm Vice President of Government Affairs for Cresco Labs. And I actually want to acknowledge what you were just touching on, Chairman, the situation that came up at the Board of Selectmen meeting a few months back, where there seemed to be some miscommunication between the landlord and the board about the intended use. And full disclosure, our team was a little caught off guard by that too. And if I remember correctly, some folks on the board were as well. So I just wanted to reassure the board firsthand coming out of the gate that dealing with Cresco, you'll have full transparency with us throughout this process. And if there's any additional information you need, please don't hesitate to ask us. We'll be happy to get it to you through the chair.
And I don't want to press that issue at all, but in review of your application, the lease agreement was in there. When you the lease agreement, there was a confidentiality statement in there that specifically forbid the landlord from saying anything about it. And I appreciate that. I absolutely appreciate that 100%. That's a contract. You can't violate the contract.
100%.
On the flip side of that, he definitely could have handled it a different way when in public forum and public meeting. If he was asked if he had someone in mind or if there was something that he was thinking about. Several times he was asked that. He said no each and every time.
Yeah.
He could have it's hindsight being 2020. He could have handled that a little bit different, and I think that the planning board would have looked at that a little bit different. But again, it does not reflect on you. I need you to understand it does not reflect on Cresco at all. I do have one other question before you get going.
Sure.
When you look at your application, it says that the owner of the property is Sheboygan LLC.
Mm-hmm.
I can't find it anywhere in the registry of deeds where they own the property. So I know there's something going on there.
Sure.
If you have some sort of representation that could kind of, tell us how that's all working,
Yeah, yeah. That's a perfect segue, actually. I was going to introduce some colleagues on the line tonight as well. I'll start with our senior counsel, Jim Boland, on the line, who's handling our application. He can touch on that for you now or at the end, whichever you prefer.
It's when it comes right down to it, it's just a question that needs to be answered. If you want to wait until the end, because honestly, I do want to hear about Cresco, and I don't want to prolong this at all. I want to hear about the company, and then myself and the board will ask questions at the end, if that's okay by you.
Sure. I'll make a note, and we'll make sure that's the first question addressed at the end, if that's cool.
Rock and roll. Thank you. I appreciate that. Go for it, sir.
Got it. All right. So like I said, I'm joined with a couple of colleagues here tonight. Jim Boland, counsel for Cresco, our zoning attorney, our local zoning attorney, Brandon Kurtzman, Matthew Skelly, our traffic analyst, and then a couple members from our team who work in the events and security areas for Cresco Labs to answer any questions you may have. So first, I'd just like to thank you again for allowing us the opportunity to present. It's not like there's anything else going on in the world right now that you might be interested in. So exactly. we appreciate the time, to say the least. And needless to say, we're really excited at the prospect of coming to Rockland and growing not only our presence in Massachusetts, but we're excited to serve your residents, create good jobs, and ultimately provide a benefit to the community. So Chairman, I'd love to give you some background on our company quickly, and then we'll transition into plans for the proposed site, where I can highlight some key aspects, not just of the property, but also details about our security and our operations. And then I'll kind of button it up at the end, if it's okay with the board, just on some of the things we're doing within the community and the economic benefits that we expect to bring to Rockland.
However you want to proceed, sir, go for it.
Let's do it. All right. Let me just shift gears here. So let me kick it off by telling you a little bit about Cresco and who we are. We currently operate in 19 retail dispensaries across the country, including in Fall River. We hold 13 licenses across the country, or I'm sorry, 30 licenses across the country. And aside from Fall River, we have a strong presence in the Northeast, including retail sites in Brooklyn, Long Island, Pittsburgh, and Philadelphia. We employ just over 400 employees in that Northeast region and over 1,800 employees nationally. And this is just a snapshot of our national footprint, the green state showing where we're currently operational. So I put this next slide in because one of the things that really sets Cresco apart, in my biased opinion, from other companies in the industry is our experience. And what I mean by that is many of our employees come from some of the world's most recognizable and successful companies that you'll see on this list, including Pfizer, Pepsi, Ford, just to name a few. But we have employees with extensive experience in planning and economic development, which is hugely important for two reasons. One, it's going to ensure that every project we pursue is community driven. We work closely with neighbors, community groups, law enforcement, local and state government. And number two, our business will always be in compliance with local and state regulations. That's kind of a long-winded way of saying that, while this is a pretty nascent industry, I think we all can agree, we're not learning this on the fly. Our team knows everything that needs to be done and the steps that need to be taken in order to run a safe, successful, and compliant facility. I'd like to turn to our national retail brand, otherwise known as Sunnyside. And as you'll soon see, our trademark Sunnyside stores, they're bright, they're welcoming, they're convenient. And we like to think of our stores as a hub for health and wellness and a benefit for both new and existing customers where we operate. So as we've touched on early on here, our proposed site in Rockland is located at 1015 Hingham Street, which is at the southeast corner of Commerce and Hingham. And the proposed building would be just over 5,000 square feet and would include plenty of on and off-site parking. And to expand on that, I've included the site plan within the application here, which accommodates actually for 23 sites on site with an agreement for 10 more at the adjacent office building lot, which can be seen just to the east side of the site. And that off-site parking will be for employees, which will allow customers to use the spaces right in front of the store. So one of the first things we did, obviously, when we pursued this project was to conduct a traffic study. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Matthew Skelly from Fuss & O'Neill, who can speak to some of the important findings there. Matthew, you on?
Yes, I am. Thank you very much, Christian. Can everyone hear me all right?
Yes.
Yeah, I gotcha.
My name for the record is Matthew Skelly. I'm a registered civil engineer specializing in transportation and traffic. I work at Fuss & O'Neill. Our office is located in Quincy. We did a traffic review for this site. We've done a lot of dispensary reviews in the last couple of years, and I would say out of all the ones that I did, this has great access onto a main road, and it also has a signalized access, which is important. Gives people the opportunity to use that during peak hours when it might be difficult to get out onto that street. As Christian mentioned, 23 off-street parking spaces, which again for a dispensary is looking pretty good. And that does not include 10 additional spaces that are potentially going to be reserved for employees. We would expect, and this is just an estimate, that about 60% of the traffic is going to come from the east, to and from the east, and 40% to and from the west. We generally, as you get further out and dispensaries become more commonplace around the Commonwealth, we expect that these are really going to be generating local traffic primarily. And a facility of this size, according to the Institute of Transportation Engineers trip generation manual, we would expect to generate just over 100 vehicle trips during a weekday peak hour, and just over 180 vehicle trips during the Saturday peak hour. And that's just an estimate on average compared to what other dispensaries generate. And just as a point of comparison, that's less than half of what a coffee shop with a drive-through would generate if you had one in the same location during the peak hours. So I'm going to leave it with that. Try to stay brief here. Obviously, I'll stick around and I'll be here to answer any questions you folks may have. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. Obviously, traffic impact is a major consideration for us when we make plans to open as well. So I think it's an appropriate segue to discuss an opening day plan. And I'd like to turn it over to Carrie Smith, Cresco's events manager, who can speak to day one operational planning that really means to ensure vehicular and pedestrian traffic are coordinated safely and efficiently. Carrie, you want?
Yes, thanks, Christian. I'm so happy to discuss kind of our proposed grand opening plan. You'll see here, of course, modifications will be made based on final building, but we have a proposed pattern of traffic for our grand opening days based off of an emergency management assessment for proper ingress and egress to maximize customer safety flow. Our final flow determination will be based off of input from Rockland law enforcement and public safety departments, and to account for any grand opening activities such as ribbon cuttings or media vans. We will have customer parking options that are nearby and also accessible arranged in order to make sure safety is number one. If you want to head to the next slide, we have done a number of openings during COVID times as well. So both for directional signage and COVID procedures to follow the CDC guidelines, we will have proper signage placed and be ready to equip and handle all of those lines. You'll notice on the next slide that we do for our grand openings have more security, more volunteers, more employees present to account for all of these activities to make sure that we can manage customer flow and any type of media activities going on. Our security will be strategically positioned to maintain safe traffic, parking, and customer flow. And then also part of our employees will be there just to help out the patrons that are coming with how to online order, answer any questions they might have, and be a friendly face when they arrive. Following these procedures on our previous Sunnyside grand openings have proven successful, and I feel that this one would be that way too.
Great. Thanks, Carrie. Moving on to our site build-out plans, one thing that's important to highlight is when we develop or renovate a property, we try to ensure that our facilities meet the standards of the communities we're in, and that they're a complement, frankly, to the character of those communities. So to give you a better feel, let's start with a floor plan. Here's a rendering of the floor plan that was submitted in the application. As you can see, it's an open, spacious customer receiving area, which will allow for comfortable flow and social distancing. We have approximately 13 point of sale registers, which makes for speedy transactions, no long lines, and avoids customers having to wait outside at all. These are the elevations for the proposed building. This is just a rendering of the frontage and the elevation. It's approximately 23 feet tall, just over 5,000 square feet as discussed, congruent with the plans that were submitted. And as you can see, we're gonna go for a real clean architectural design with illuminated signage on the exterior. And finally, I just wanted to include the landscaping plan. These are the same plans again that were submitted, but I wanted to note that Cresco will be responsible for the maintenance and upkeep here. And now we get into the gravy and the nice photos, if you will. So as you'll see in this first slide, this is just an example. We transformed this property in Buffalo Grove. This is not a rendering. This is an actual photograph in Illinois in 10 weeks. It was a fantastic project, earned praise from neighbors and local businesses. And it brought a fresh, vibrant feel to this corridor, this commercial corridor that frankly sorely needed it. And this is a photograph from the interior of the same location. Again, spacious, bright, comfortable for customers. And finally, one more photo of one of our service areas in our Schaumburg location. Again, it's important to note these are real photographs. This is the type of professionalism and warm environment you can expect in every single one of our stores. I want to get into security. Obviously, this is massively important, and the safety of our customers and employees is of the utmost priority. We have state-of-the-art technology in our stores and a robust security system to ensure our locations are extremely safe. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Abe Jamal, our Director of Retail Security, to provide some of those details on our security measures and product delivery protocols. Abe, are you on?
Yeah, thanks, Christian. Again, my name is Abe Jamal. I'm the Director of Security for Cresco. I oversee all the retail division. So our program is one of the more robust programs within the industry. Outside of our camera system, we input an additional 20% of cushion. With that, our cameras are one of the top of the line. Not only that is after actually speaking to Lieutenant Nick Zioli, one of his concerns were, getting footage. So not only that, we'll have license plate reading cameras, cameras strategically placed, for facial shots and everything. Another thing as well is, the program is tailored for the first responder. There'll be 24/7 security. Not only that, we'll be able to access the building remotely. In the event of any type of emergency situation, a quick phone call to me, I can pop up in every single door. Some of the other things that we do again, we have an additional off-duty officer, for additional counter surveillance when our deliveries and whatnot come through. And just a kind of detail of how our deliveries. So we have a 10-year license with the FCC for our radios. So we have private channels. We do go through code words. We get a 15-minute heads up before a cash pickup or a cannabis delivery is about to be heading our way. And when we get that 15 minutes, what we call as a code green is called out, and either our normal security officers or our off duty will do a counter surveillance of the building, whether to wave off that driver, letting him know that it's not safe, or if all is well, they'll let him know ahead of time. But regardless of the fact, even though we have that physical person that's going to be watching delivery from start to finish, we'll also have another security officer, overseeing it from CCTV as well.
Okay. Thanks, Ed. And we included this letter from the Deputy Chief of the Rockland Police, just stating their review and approval of this security plan. Just wanted to have that on record. And then also, I included one of several letters we've received from our friends in law enforcement. This is the chief of police from Elmwood Park in Illinois, commending us for being a good neighbor and responsive to their requests. So I just wanted to share this as it's indicative of the type of relationships we have when we open a location. Some of the first phone calls we make are to the chiefs of police and fire to get acquainted, exchange information, and to be a resource for them and supportive of their efforts. In terms of our operations, I wanted to highlight several key policies at our facilities. Just to name a few, no unpackaged cannabis products are going to be allowed in the store. There's no cannabis consumption on the premises. Our stores are debit card compatible for cashless transactions. And this is a big deal because it's a safer way to do business and more accommodating for our customers. And any product that leaves the store is in sealed packaging, just like you would see at a pharmacy. With regard to order and pickup procedures, customers can go online and create their own profile and then select the location on our website where they plan to make their purchase. It's very simple, not pretty simple. After registering, they can place their order on our website, the same website, and receive an order confirmation via email or text. And upon their arrival, the customer can let a Cresco employee know when they're greeted that they have an online order. The Cresco employee will scan all their items into our system, place the products into the bag, confirm that order, complete the transaction, staple the bag, shut with a receipt.
Can I just ask a quick question? It's at Bob Galvin. I saw on that last slide it said curbside.
Mm-hmm.
There's no curbside delivery. All the transactions take place inside the store here?
That's right. Yeah. If curbside ever were to be allowed, that's something we could accommodate. But that's not something, obviously, we would be proactive in doing. We'll stay compliant with state and local law.
Okay.
And one of the pillars of Cresco is our commitment to community. And ingraining our company and our employees into community projects is something we're really proud of. And we believe it's an important responsibility to give back where you do business. Just this upcoming Friday, we'll be hosting a Veterans Appreciation and Flag Hoisting Ceremony in Fall River to support the Bristol County Veterans Association Food Pantry. Try saying that a couple of times. During the full month, our staff will be installing and hoisting those flags to celebrate our employees who are veterans. And on the ceremony day, we've partnered with a local wellness center to have a pop-up education area for patients where they'll provide free medical card coupons for veterans and discount coupons for other new and existing patients. Additionally, in Fall River, we've been very active in the community. We've donated nearly $15,000 to local organizations this year, and our team has volunteered over 100 hours in support of local community initiatives. And I'm excited to say in Rockland, we've already started reaching out to several groups just to see how we can support their causes. So far, we've had some great conversations with the South Shore Chamber, the Rockland Emergency Food Pantry, Rockland Cares, and various veterans organizations. So we look forward to continuing those conversations and pursuing some potential partnerships there. And finally, we're excited about the economic impact we can bring to Rockland. The projected costs of the site build out is just over $1.2 million, which means opportunities for local contractors, businesses to really help service the development. We also anticipate hiring 25 to 30 new local and full-time employees. That comes with good pay, great benefits. And based on our site and location, we're projecting over $4.5 million in sales, which will equate to $1.4 million in tax revenue. So with that, I want to conclude and not take up too much time. I just want to thank you again for your time. Happy to answer any questions and jot down any feedback you may have. And Chairman Rosa, I'll flag the Sheboygan question for you. And if it's okay with you, I'll have our counsel, Jim, jump in.
Yeah, whoever, that would be the first one that I want to kind of tackle. And there we go. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
So who wants to take that?
Yeah, thank you, Sharon. Jim Bowen, Senior Counsel for Cresco. Good to be here. And I think that we may actually have, I think Mr. Rader, who is going to be our landlord, it may actually be on the call.
Is there an Andrew Tanner as well? I see an A Tanner over there.
Yep, over here.
Okay, so I think there's a bunch of people that could speak to this. Whoever wants to take the lead on it. I'd like to know how this is all working out.
Of course. So I can just speak from the Cresco perspective, and as Christian said, our goal is always to be completely transparent. So in that spirit, I will just say when we sent the application to the property owner to complete, Sheboygan LLC was the entity that was filled in by the property owner. Now that we are in negotiations with the lease, my understanding is that it's the representations and warranties are listing 1015 Hingham LLC as the property owner. So unfortunately, I'm really not able to speak as to the discrepancy between the two. All I can say is that was what was provided to us. And the 1015 Hingham LLC entity is the one that is being represented to us in our lease negotiations as the property owner.
Mr. Tanner, you represent Jumbo Capital to some degree, is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, we own the adjacent property, 1099 Hingham
All right.
Street.
So how is this all working? Because I did do some research on the Registry of Deeds. The registered piece of property, which is 1099, the certificate of title included this piece of property, the 1015. So again, it's not on the recorded side. So how does Sheboygan get involved in this? Because it still comes up as Jumbo Capital, no matter how I look.
Yeah, we are still the owner of the property. It has
Okay.
not changed hands yet. It's under agreement. And Sheboygan LLC, I believe, is the name of the entity, which
Is going to purchase it from Jumbo.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Mr. Galvin, I don't necessarily know if this application needs to be amended, because they're representing the owner of the property, and the owner of the property is someone different.
I think that's something that they could address, after tonight, or
Okay.
if the board feels like they're prepared to and have enough other information, we can make it a condition.
Okay.
And I'll make sure that we work that out.
Okay. Just as long as that gets all worked out for everybody involved. Yep. I think that needs to be there. The second thing that I want to address before we really get going on this, because again, I need to open this up to the board members so they can start asking questions. And unfortunately, I don't see Mr. Don Bracken, the civil engineer who did all this planning work. I don't see him on the line here. My question is, why are we looking at a plan that's dated February 19th, 2020, that we saw back in February, March, that we've already said no to? I'm wondering that. And then the planning board, they approved a plan with conditions that was dated August 18th, 2020. So it's like we're going back in time, starting from scratch, and I don't understand why. Can anybody answer that question?
Can you hear me, Mr. Chairman?
Absolutely, Mr. Rader. What's going on?
Okay, how are you tonight?
Not too bad.
The plan that I believe Cresco submitted is just a site plan and a floor plan. But the board has approved, both the Zoning Board of Appeals and the Planning Board have approved Bracken's site drawings, which are the subject of this hearing tonight. So
but they were not included in the package for my board to review and look at. Did Cresco not get those?
Cresco has a set of all the site drawings and the working drawings for the building. But again, they're just submitting to you a floor plan showing you what's going to be inside of the building. And
a site plan. And the site plan is dated February 19th with Sheboygan Properties as the applicant. And it's everything that we've already, from the beginning, we already said no on.
Well, the plan that Cresco is working off of, and we're working off, is the plan that was approved.
So where is it?
Pardon me?
Where is it?
Rob, it's Bob Galvin again. I have a part of the presentation, and if I can share my screen,
okay,
I'll show you what I have. I don't know, can you see that?
Yep.
This is the site plan that I have, and I think it was included in the Cresco presentation.
Yep, we saw that.
I can't tell if that's the revised plan from August or that was the February plan, because it doesn't have the legend on this page.
That's
Bob,
just,
if I may,
that's the
I can
land,
confirm quickly. That's the revised plan from August.
but it is also only the landscaping plan. And as we're looking at this, we need to be able to look at it. My board needs to be able to see exactly what you guys are proposing. It wasn't until last minute that I was able to get something from the planning board, so my board could see, look, this is not really, I don't think this is what's really going to be happening here.
Cresco is not making any changes to the site plan that was approved by both your board and the planning board.
Okay, then why wasn't it included in this submission?
Well, again,
you can't answer that. You don't know. You didn't do the submission, Mr. Rader, and I appreciate that. I absolutely do. But the point is that my board has to be able to see what's being proposed. As far as I'm concerned, as far as my board is concerned, I'm pretty sure what's being proposed is something that we already saw back in February that we already said no to.
Well, that's certainly not the intent. We provided Cresco with the approved site drawings that the board approved. So that's the intent here, is that, and again, Cresco is only modifying the interior, within the interior walls. They're not doing any changes or modifications to the plan you approved.
Can you supply us a copy of the plan?
Sure.
Okay, can you do it right now?
No, I can't.
That's the problem.
Well, isn't this? I believe this plan that that's on the screen right now that Bob provided is the August 17th, is the August approved plan.
Right. Where's the drainage? Where's the details? And there's a lot of.
Well, then all we would be doing is resubmitting the working drawings from Don Bracken that you approved. Is that what you're looking for us just to resubmit the drawings that you approved?
It should have been submitted that way in the beginning.
Okay.
And it's procedural. I mean, there's nothing I can do about that. That's procedural. It was at the last minute that I was able to dig these up, and I forwarded them to the board. None of us have had really any chance to look at it to see what was granted. I looked at it real quick to make sure that the variances that my board did approve, I looked at that real quick to make sure that that was still there, and that is still there. But I believe that there was a lot of conditions that were put on by the planning board. Let me throw this out. Did you ever get anything back from water and sewer?
Yeah, I believe we have water and sewer approved connections.
Where is that?
It's on Bracken's plan.
No, it's not. There's no approval letter from the Sewer or Water Commission that says that this can work. Did you get anything from the fire department?
Again, I'd have to ask Don Bracken that.
That's my problem here, and Don Bracken is not here to represent his work. So this is a problem that we continue to have as time goes on. Not with you specifically. This is not aimed at you, Mr. Rader, Cresco, anything. It's a matter of a complete presentation when it comes to the water and sewer, when it comes to traffic impact, when it comes to the fire department. That usually comes out at a second meeting, something like that, which is fine. It's just what's really bugging me is the sheer fact that we have seen this piece of property twice in the zoning board and at least twice at the planning board. And a lot of this stuff could have been hammered out. It was pretty much already hammered out. No guarantees, but we could have approved this tonight if all the correct information was given to us. There was a lot of things that, and again, in talking with the planning board members, in talking with the planning board secretary, there was a lot of, they had a lot of issues with the plan, but on good faith, they allowed this to go through and gave you guys a lot of information, a lot of leeway based on conditions. So I don't want to keep beating this, again, it's beating a dead horse here, but it still comes down to the planning board has already approved a whole bunch of stuff on this plan. My board has to see that this is all going to work and to grant the special permit, but you didn't give us the information to be able to make that determination if it's going to work for the special permit. We just know that something was happening with the planning board. We don't know it on paper. We don't know it on plan. That should have been submitted in the package. And on top of that, since you knew all of this, you would have been able to at least coach Cresco and say, look, here's my approval letter. These were the conditions. If you want to take this to the fire department, if you want to take it to the water department, if you want to take it to the sewer department, get them to sign off on it. It's probably going to be a drop in the hat. That's my point. You want us to approve something, you want us to make decisions on something, but you didn't give us the appropriate information to be able to do so. We need that appropriate information.
Okay. I mean, all Cresco would have been doing would have been submitting the exact same drawing.
Mr. Ficarra, can you speak to this, please?
That your board.
Yeah. From my understanding, and I'm happy to go back to the team and just get clarification and get back to you immediately. But I believe we did ask for a copy of the approved plans too. And if we did have any kind of guidance that would have been required or submitted to the board prior, 100% we would have done that. I would have looked for that kind of guidance. So
I absolutely
wherever you need us, if we need to request that information formally from the planning board to then resubmit or provide to your board, happy to do that.
What I can do is I will put, I'm assuming we have contact information for you.
Yes, sir. I've been working with my team through Bob, if that's the right channel.
All right. What I'll do is through Bob, somehow I will put you in contact with the planning board. I will let the planning board forward you their decision, their formal decision, the plan set that they made their decisions on. Yep. I would suggest you go back through your email and find out what Mr. Rader emailed you for plans or Mr. Bracken emailed you for plans, because what was submitted into this package was the very first plan set that we saw back in February, March. And there are significant things that are different on that.
Totally. That makes perfect sense. Again, I think we have made that formal request before. I don't believe it's been provided to us. So we'll make sure to coordinate and track that down and make sure we get it to the board for review. And
that's fine. And the assumption is that, yes, you are going to look at the plans or you were looking at the plans that the planning board did approve, did give approval on, and you were going to work with that. Because right now I look at this landscaping plan and you see the entrance into 1099 behind you. That's not shown on the plan set that you submitted, but that was shown on the plan that we approved variances based on. Sure. So there are significant differences. We want to make sure that at least we're working with the most current drawings, the most current approvals that at least the planning board looked at. Yep. And I'm not saying that we're going to just go with it either, but we need to at least know what the planning board has already looked at.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense, Chairman. And what we'll do is ensure that we get our hands on that readout from planning, and then ensure that those plans are congruent with what you're going to be reviewing as well.
And then also, like I said, the approval letter that was the official approval letter from planning board, because there were several conditions in there. Mm-hmm. And again, I haven't seen the letter per se. I've heard through the grapevine that there were several conditions. Most specifically, talk to water and sewer, talk to fire department. The only other thing that I know of is that we were talking about, or what was talked about, was an easement for over the 10 for access at the stoplight, and that's what that rear entrance was facilitating, was basically in and out traffic coming out of the back. We're going to have to look at that to see if that can actually handle the amount of traffic. Because without, again, based on what I'm seeing here, I don't have actual distances between the end of the parking and the proposed, or actually existing, edge of pavement that's already there. I have know how wide that drive lane is, so I don't know if it can handle two-way traffic. I believe it can. But without having actual distances on there, I don't know if that's actually going to work or not. And that's something that the board has to see as well. We have to see if this second access, which we all agreed was a good thing. We all agreed that, everybody on my board, but we need to see if it's actually going to work to be able to grant this special permit. So that's something.
Rob, I just focused in on that distance there, and it looks to me like they got a 24-foot drive aisle there.
Right, but what's the distance between the back of the parking lot and the edge of the parking lot on the Jumbo Capital side? That doesn't look like two-way. That doesn't look wide enough to be two-lane traffic.
If you can see as a distance there, looks like that's the pinch point, and that's 24 feet. Everything else looks wider.
Right, but if you were to go from basically where your arrow is, all right, go down about half an inch to the edge of the pavement. All right, that area right in there that you're pointing to, what's that width? Because that dashed area is the edge of the proposed easement, which doesn't even take into consideration the parking that's over there. So that's also an issue. It's like the easement isn't big enough, and if that dashed line is the edge of the, is roughly the edge of the pavement. Not the edge of the pavement, but roughly the back of the parking space, the distance between that dashed line and that solid line, which is supposed to represent the new edge of paving, doesn't look to be much more than 20 feet. That's really not wide enough for two lanes of traffic, especially people that are going to be coming in and out, in and out, in and out, and having parking that's right there. So this is why I was hoping Mr. Bracken would be on the online, because he could pull up his AutoCAD plans and he could snap distances in a heartbeat. So that's something that we're going to want to see too, because if that's a part of the presentation, and if that is part of what you guys are planning to do, we're going to need to see that too.
I did understand they were going to go back to the planning board though, because of this use is different from the other use, even though it's both retail. So.
Oh yeah, no, they're definitely going to have to. So most specifically for site plan review. So.
Well, that's the only reason I mentioned it. I mean, we don't have to get into all of the details. We can obviously incorporate any part of the prior site plan decision, and anything that they change that result in or impact anything that you might decide, you can have them come back to you and ask to change. So.
Well, we can definitely do that. I need everybody to know what the general concerns are. Or at least I know that what the general concerns are going to at least start to be. Now, I've talked way too much, so I'm going to stop talking and I'm going to open it up to the board, because I'm assuming that everybody else has some questions that they want to ask. I'm going to start off with Mr. Tanzi. Mr. Tanzi, do you have any questions for the applicant?
I just wanted him to discuss a little bit more about deliveries. How many would he expect per week? When they would come? What the volume is? What the delivery truck would be? Is it a van? Is it a cube van? Or and where would you be getting your product from?
Christian, I could take that if you want.
Right. Yeah. Thanks, Ed.
Yeah. So typically we use Sprinter vans. There's the driver and a coach. They are GPS tracked. They're not labeled at all. We obviously source our own product, and then we have a few vendors as well. So for us, they'll be coming from Fall River, and then we have a few other vendors, but everything is standard. Same way. They have a coach, somebody riding coach. They have the driver. They're all GPS tracked, and they have camera.
And the time?
As far as how many deliveries per week, Typically, we like to do it at the beginning of the week. It's based on volume. I could tell you some of our higher volume stores, it's like 2 deliveries a week. But then and then cash pickups are a little bit more frequent. We typically do them 2 or 3 times a week.
And Abe, just to piggyback on that, we also have robust standard operating procedures for receiving deliveries, ensuring that product is securely transported from the vans into the facilities.
Okay. And just a brief overview of the security that takes place during a delivery. I know that you mentioned that call ahead and people would be alerted, and the security team would be aware of the delivery. You mentioned a precursory walk outside to see if it was safe. What would be something that would cause the delivery to be rerouted or postponed, or not? Have you ever come across a situation like that where you saw a suspicious person, a suspicious vehicle, or something like that?
Rogue band of hippies.
So we've been reluctant with such a robust program that we haven't had any issue. But typically our off-duty entity, they run the counter surveillance as they're more experienced, and they understand what would be deemed red flag. So they run the counter surveillance again 15 minutes prior in order to wave off the van. But like I said, we've been reluctant with such a robust program. We're one of the few in the industry that they even do a 24-hour coverage of security, actual security personnel. So with that, we've been very, very fortunate, along with liaisoning with our law enforcement partners as well, who constantly check up. So we as far as deterrence wise, we have yet to even come across that, because we deter any of these issues.
Okay.
All set?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Tanzi. Mr. Hessian, got anything to say? You got to unmute yourself, though.
The only question I had, you pretty much covered all mine until I see the up-to-date drawings. But I noticed your hours of operation. Was it 9 to 8 or something similar?
It was 10 to 8.
10 to 8. Would that be same on Sundays?
Let me actually confirm that.
It's typically 7 days a week, Christian.
Yep.
Pardon me?
Putting that up here. 7 days a week.
And that would be the same on Sundays?
Correct.
Okay. No, really, that's about all I had to.
Thank you, Mr. Hessian. Mr. Haynes, you have anything to say to the applicant? Any questions you need answered?
Got to unmute. All right. While my internet was coming and going, did I miss, is the host agreement signed? I didn't get one in my package. So do we have a host agreement, which is a condition of putting in the application to us?
I can confirm that we do.
Okay. The only other comment I'd have is when we got the original plan and the original submittal, it didn't have any of the snow storage areas that we had asked for. Mm-hmm. Now, when I'm doing the counting of the spaces, I'm just wondering if we've accounted for the fact that some of the parking spaces on the plan are actually snow storage areas. They're not going to be available year round. And it seems to me that the number of Saturday morning visits and turns don't account for the fact that that there's potential for not all these spots to be usable. So I'm just wondering what the applicant's plans are during snowy times when those spots are not available. And I also should mention that to the board, just so while we think about whether the parking is adequate or not, keep in mind that some of those spaces are not always going to be available.
Mr. Haynes, can I touch on that as well? I think that when we were looking, I remember in the beginning, we were looking at all the parking, but that was all the required amount of parking. Based on our bylaw, it comes down to the square footage of the retail area. Mr. Ficarra, do you have a square footage of the actual retail area? Because I think in the end, you've got more than enough parking. Because we were looking at the whole 5,008 square feet as retail area, but it really only comes down to the retail floor, the floor space of the retail area.
That's right, Chairman. Yeah, the 508 or 5,008 square feet is for the actual building itself. But while we have 23 available spots, there will be no less than 22 available at any point. So in terms of snow, and I'll loop in any of my colleagues here who can expand on it further. We do have plans to use at least a spot there to use for snow arrangements if indeed we do need to do that. But based on my interpretation of the agreement, we will offer no less than 22 spots at any given point.
Do you have an actual number on the retail square footage?
Yeah, I can definitely get it to you through the chat.
If you can get that to us, we can then take that, divide that by 300, and then how many employees do you think you're going to be having on a busy day? How many employees do you think you're going to have working?
It's a good question.
That was submitted in the package. My issue is, Rob, you nailed it, that the actual zoning required amount of spaces, which have to be on site, they can't include overflow parking, I think are adequate, but they do need to be based on the actual sales area. But in terms of the board's decision on whether this is safe and it meets the requirements of the neighborhood, we really have to look at the number of trips at peak hours to see if the parking is adequate for the other attestations we're going to make, not just whether it meets the zoning compliance. So I'm concerned about the parking actually being adequate and the number of usable spaces on site being okay.
Mr. Haynes, just doing some quick math, with the retail square footage being exactly 5,008 square feet, if you divide that by 300, you're looking at 16.69 spaces that would be required.
That's exactly what we came up with. And then the number of employees, they really couldn't answer. They gave us basic numbers. I think they said like 5 employees, which said 2.5 spaces. But in the end, this was in the beginning when they first came to us, and then things changed. But in the end, I'm thinking that we're going to have to get a resubmittal in here on that set of plans that gets resubmitted. I would suggest having a parking table on there, the required by zoning, and then how many you're going to actually be putting on site. As well as how many of those spaces are going to be handicapped, and how many of those spaces would end up being taken out because of snow storage. At least just so we have, and in the end, the planning board will also have that same information to be able to say, okay, is this adequate? Is it not adequate? So it's just something that would be nice to have on the plan.
100%. Chairman, to that point, is there a checklist that I can maybe work with Bob on to make sure that we get all of that criteria in one, so it's not piecemeal coming into you guys? Because I know there are a couple of things we have to follow up with you on. Is there a collaborative, comprehensive place where we should look to get all of these things?
I'll default to Mr. Galvin at this point, because the only thing that I can say is get a copy of the bylaw and read it like we do. I mean, I haven't seen an actual like a physical checklist, and it's probably something that needs to be put together. And I thank you for the suggestion. I'll take that as a suggestion.
Yeah, and just as a courtesy to you guys too, I know you guys have a ton of business on your agendas on a weekly and monthly basis. So make sure that it's not a piecemeal approach, and we get you everything you need up front for consideration. We're happy to do that and do our due diligence there.
Mr. Haynes, do you have all your questions answered at this point?
Yes, I'm good.
Mr. Baker Jr., we're finally coming to you. Do you have any questions for the applicant, sir?
Just a couple. Is there a maximum number of customers allowed in the store at any given time?
Sorry, I was just taking that down. Abe, do you have that offhand?
So the actual CFO, we don't know the exact occupancy, but I can tell you that, the way our operation is planned. So although on the security side, I work very well with the ops side. So the way we've developed our customer journey, so to speak, is that we turn and burn customers within a 3 to 5 minute relevance. So it's very fast. So we've never had a store at full occupancy. We have a store in Illinois that's close to 11,000 square feet, and I've never seen more than 8 to 10 people in there at a time. Just because how fast we turn and burn customers. That was an issue for me as well, from an emergency management standpoint, is that we don't want to pack this place. We want to get people in, get them going, and everybody has a nice day at the end of the day.
But your short answer is no, that there is no maximum. Is that correct?
At this point, we don't have the current occupancy for that square footage, but at 5,500 square feet, I can't imagine, even with COVID right now, having more than 15 people in there.
That would end up being based off of the retail square footage, though, wouldn't it?
It would, yes. But again, with social distance, I'm more so of these times with social distancing and everything.
Exactly. Exactly.
And to that point, real quickly, we'll make sure that, and we do make sure currently with all of our operations, that all of our stores are compliant with COVID guidelines as well.
Yeah. And what kind of led to the question is I was looking at the traffic study, which indicated that on a peak hour on a weekday, there'd be approximately 109 vehicle trips. So depending on how many people are in the store and how many people are waiting to get into the store, how is the potential chaos in your parking lot controlled?
So that's another thing. I'm sorry. So that's another thing that I deal with as well. So currently we don't take any walk-ups. Everything is through online order. So if you don't have an online order, we can't allow you in the store. So even if a couple were to show up to the door, the person who actually put the online order in is only allowed inside the store. And so it mitigates, the effort of having, a crammed store.
Yeah, and if I could just expand on that really quickly too, the sequence of our ordering, where we can make appointments, order online, it to Abe's point really burns through customers quickly, where it's a quick turnaround in store. And I think it's probably best to ping Matthew here as well, just to talk about how you see them playing out.
Thanks. I'd love to chime in. So that number of 109 trips, when you're trying to visualize it, can be a little bit deceiving because each customer accounts for 2 trips. That's a trip entering the site and a trip exiting the site. So that 109, that's only about 50 people. That comes out to less than a person a minute. So if you're kind of thinking about circulation in the lot, that's not going to account for a ton of aggregation of people inside the building.
And just to get back to the traffic study for a second, you had indicated what the number of trips on the peak hour on a weekday would be. What would your estimate be for the number of trips in the entirety of the day?
The entire weekday, I don't think we have that number in the study. You can use as a rough estimate for like the full weekday that maybe 10% of your trips are in your absolute peak hour. But it could be less than that. If that's something, if you guys are interested in that number, I could actually just quickly look it up here.
Okay, thank you. And while you're doing that, perhaps, and I may be asking you a question while you're doing that, and I'm sorry.
Keep it coming.
I've read the traffic study. I've read the letter from the police department approving the security procedures. Has the police department had the opportunity to look at your traffic study? And if so, what was their take on it?
I have not received any formal comment from the police department on here. I didn't personally submit it to the police department. Perhaps somebody from the Cresco team could comment.
I can speak to that. So overall, we submitted, our full-on security procedures, and with that, the traffic came into to Lieutenant Zioli. At the time, the chief was out on vacation, so his designee was Lieutenant Zioli, and that kind of came with the blessing of the letter as well. So that's a big part of the security procedures as well as the proper ingress and egress and flow of traffic that's coming through.
So even though it wasn't part of the letter, you're representing to us that the lieutenant was fine with your traffic plan.
Absolutely, yeah. Everything from a security risk management, emergency management standpoint went through him. And, we had an extensive talk.
And
Lieutenant
just one
Ziola would not put his name on something that he did not like. So if he
I
had,
don't doubt that for a second, but the traffic plan wasn't referenced in his letter. That's fine.
Understood.
And one question on security is the on-site security going to be armed or unarmed?
So typically, we go with the armed approach, and whatever state compliance allows us. And I believe the state of Massachusetts does allow armed, especially for off-duty.
Thank you. I have nothing else, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Baker Jr. I got one more, Mr. Baker. Talk to me. What do you got?
On the plans that we approved, the back exit or entrance, whatever you want to call it there, that was going to be gravelled, remember? Is that now going to be paved because of the trips?
Let's not talk about it. Let's wait till we get the plans that they want to go with. You're right. You're 100% right, because on what they're presenting to us right now, it's gravel. I don't believe that's how it's going to be. I believe it's going to be paved, but I want to wait until we get the plan set that they actually want to build.
Member Baker, we'll definitely make note of that as well, just to make sure that's specified.
What else you got?
Is this zone allowed off-site parking?
I can answer that.
I'm sorry?
I can answer that. All the required parking based on the zoning bylaw has to be on site.
So they can't say they have off-site parking.
They can't say that they do.
They can't have it anywhere in the filing. They cannot say they're going to have off-site parking.
Can I interrupt?
Yes.
If they meet the minimum parking requirements of the bylaw on site, there's nothing that prohibits them with making arrangements to have off-site parking somewhere else.
There you go.
That's right. Thanks, Bob. And in the presentation too, we'd referenced the off-site parking for employees, and we think that'll be good just to open up space in front of the actual retail footprint for customers, so nobody feels that they have to park elsewhere, walk down the street, something like that.
And just so everybody's aware, that is a staple of most every dispensary I've come in contact with. Every single one that I know of has some sort of off-site parking that is usually designated for employees only. Whether it's a good thing or a bad thing or not, I don't know, but it is a staple that I have seen. So it's just something that I think we have to look at and say that it's going to happen.
Yeah.
So
one other thing is,
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mr. Baker.
You're on the next part, but they should have a lighting plan.
That is something that we didn't.
Lighting.
That is something that we did. That is something that we didn't see. Mr. Ficarra, is that something that you guys have that you could speak to right now, or?
Abe, I'm not sure if that was included in your materials. If not, we can definitely get that back through the chair.
Yeah. So typically
just trying to save time.
So within our security operating plan, we use the most common formula within corporate security is the crime prevention through environmental design, which falls under landscaping and lighting and everything. So as we go through, yes, there will be a full-on lighting plan, making sure key areas are not going to be dark, especially our receiving area, main parking lot, any areas of emergency access and whatnot.
Typically for the planning board submissions, they are going to be looking for a full-on lighting plan, just so you know. I don't know if it's something you want to start putting together now, but it is something that's going to have to be in there. I would assume that the next round of plan submission is going to include a full-size copy of the landscaping plan, and then from there, it would probably be nice to see a lighting plan. I remember seeing on. I think it was on this plan set. It was pointed out that there were some lighting, that there was some lights shown on the building. But the full-on lighting plan would probably be a good thing to have. What What else do we
That's
have?
all.
Thank you, Mr. Baker. I appreciate it. What else was there? There was a couple of other things that I came up with.
Mr.
Oh,
Chair,
who's this?
this is Matthew Skelly, the traffic engineer. Just
Mr.
wanted to
Skelly,
answer
please.
a question
Please do.
to Mr. Baker's earlier question about the total number of trips in the day.
Please do.
For a facility this size, we would expect somewhere in the range of about 1,250 over the course of the whole day.
Thank you.
And that's 10 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Correct.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. One of the things that I was thinking about, let's say that I download your app, I order off your app. Not worried about a time per se, but let's say that I place the order on the app, I go up, I show my receipt, or I show my order or something like that, gain access to the building. I'm in the building. Do I have the ability to start shopping while I'm in there? Or am I only allowed to pick up what I ordered?
Christian, do you want me to take it?
Yeah, go ahead.
So again, through the online order, it's typically what you get. So let's say for an instance, so mind you also that this isn't traditional retail, so no shopping around. I used to be in the banking business, so I had colleagues from Citibank come in, and they're like, "Oh, this is just like the bank. You go to the counter, you get your product, and you're on your way out." So there's no essentially shopping around. There isn't a menu board or anything. But worst case scenario, let's say we're out of a product that you did pre-order. Then you'll have that extra minute to pre-select something. But there's no lingering. There's no shopping. That's why I said we're able to turn and burn. Between 2 to 5 minutes. 5 is max. And if we start seeing a trend of every customer's 5 minutes, our retail partners start to push and say, hey, we need to start getting these customers out a little bit faster.
How about let's talk about retail sales of edibles, accessories. Are you going to be doing that as well?
That's all online. Everything has to be picked online.
But it is going to be available to be ordered online.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. All right. What else did I have? I had one more. At this point, Mr. Galvin, do you have anything to add?
I do.
Please do.
Just a couple of questions. Design review is also an element of something that the board will look at. The applicant showed some standard design. It looked like with a Sunnyside sign on above looked like there were 2 entrances on this building. And then you showed us a rendering. I just want to make sure that the board is okay with the design materials and the look of the building. Second of all, a question on the landscape plan. I'll just kind of spill them all out there. Was there an intention to provide a private irrigation well or to irrigate the grassed and vegetated areas with public water? I asked my question about curbside delivery. And then I have some standard conditions and findings that we've used in other cases. And when I review, and I'll display them in a minute, but when I looked at them again, I looked at the hours of operation, and what we've had with the other retail users are closed on Christmas Day, Memorial Day, and Labor Day. We've had some uses that were 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday to Saturday with more limited hours on Sunday. Maybe the applicant could address the proposed hours that they want to use. And I think with that, maybe it just makes sense for me to display again on my screen what I have here, because I think it'll remind the board of the findings it has to make. Let me just do the screen share again. Okay. Can everybody see that now?
Absolutely.
Okay, so the first few issues, those are the 3 findings that the zoning board has to make. And I can email that to everybody, or I can continue to display it, but when it comes down to a vote, Those are the three findings they have to make before you decide to grant the special permit. These proposed conditions, which I'll share with everybody here and I'll email to the applicant for comment, are somewhat modified based on what I just heard. Some of them are taken right from the bylaw and are mandatory conditions. The yellow that I highlight here are ones that I heard tonight: no curbside pickup without further written approval from the Board of Appeals. And that might also have to be, and also is allowed by state law. All purchases at or through the proposed establishment should be made through online purchases or by appointment only. I wasn't quite sure whether the applicant meant by appointment only, but it sounded like you have to book an appointment to go into the premises, or you have to purchase online and then go in some organized way. So if that's not the case, they can let us know. Number 3 was no use of or consumption of any of the materials. There's no room for a drive-up or drive-through service on this property. The signage can't contain any symbols that depict in any way marijuana products that look like the Sunnyside that we had here does not. There's no outside display of storage of materials or promotional materials outside. There's no manufacturing facility, so this would be just proposed retail facility. I don't know if you need to be ventilated here. This probably would only apply if you're manufactured, so this might not even be applicable in this particular case. We have a facility that's already been permitted that has both retail and manufacturing, so that's where that came from. I'm not entirely familiar with whether the law has changed yet on home delivery, but in our prior, we have no home delivery of marijuana products from this premises. I heard the applicant already say that there's no trucks that are going to be anything with the script, so that sounds okay. The special permit is personal to the applicant, does not run with the land and can't be transferred without approval from the zoning board. The Rockland Police Department get the information on key managerial employees and updated that when there's any changes or any changes to its security plans. The applicant coordinates grand opening plans with the Rockland Police Department, including traffic details. There's the irrigation issue. Applicant has suspected criminal activities to the Rockland Police Department. I know they've got to do that to the CCC as well. Prior to the commencement of construction, you arrange a pre-construction meeting with the building commissioner, chairman of the planning board, police, fire, DPW, or the town engineer, and a representative of the Board of Appeals. Prior to opening, have to obtain all other local permits and approvals and other state permits, including site plan approval from the planning board. Prior to opening, they have to file an as-built plan prepared by a professional land surveyor and an engineer certifying the building improvements are completed in accordance with the approved plans. Our bylaw requires special permits to lapse if not exercised within 1 year, and then the applicant has to remove all materials within 3 months. Because I knew a portion of this property next door was going to be used, this probably should be yellow. We would like to have a copy of I recommend that we have a copy of the easement for the 10 vehicles. And again, just in the general one, construct the proposed building in accordance with the approved site plans and approved design and elevation plans. So I'll make sure that Mr. Boland and Mr. Ficarra and his team have a copy of these, but those kind of reflect all the issues that I have, and maybe they can answer some of those questions now. And if they can't on another night is okay too.
Mr. Ficarra, do you want to address any of this now, or do you want to do this at a later date? It's up to you.
Sure. I mean, I'm happy to stay on, and I know our team is here for as long as you need tonight. If we were to start walking through some of this, just so I know, is this headed towards some kind of conditional use approval tonight, as long as we're answering these questions, or is there a process where we must come back with the full planning approval letter?
Yeah, I'll be honest with you, and because of everything that's been going on with this piece of property,
Sure.
I'm going to again, I can put it out to the board. I'd like to hear them as well, hear what they say as well. My gut feeling is we're going to want to see these plans, just because of what's been going on. And again, I'm not calling it the lack of transparency. It's just with the miscommunications that have been going on. I just want to make sure that we're doing this by the book.
Got it.
100%. I don't want anybody coming back on anybody on anybody.
Yep.
I just want to make sure that it's done by the book, and that's it.
Yep. Totally understand.
That's my gut feeling. And again, we're gonna talk about it after. But if you want to talk about these proposed conditions, there will probably be additional that we put on. But this is up to you. If you want to prolong the meeting tonight, we can do that. If you want to do it at the next available date, we can do that as well. Because at least that, if you do it now, there's really not a lot of time to think about it. If you do it at the next available meeting, at least you'll have time to sit down with your team and go, does this work? Does this work? Does this work? Does this work?
100%. And Chairman, I appreciate that offer. I think we'll take you up on that too, in the interest of making sure the board has a comprehensive package to review rather than just going through it kind of piecemeal and then having maybe one-off questions after that, the next one. We want to make sure this is thorough and robust for you guys to take a look at and all the questions are answered.
I appreciate that. I just want to pull the board real quick. I want to make sure that I'm not again, I do not speak for the board. I just want to make sure that everybody kind of agrees with, what I'm saying here. Mr. Tanzi, do you want to see some updated plans?
Well, Rob, the decision of approval is going to reference these plans, and it would be wise to see them and have them available to make sure that our decision references the appropriate plan. So I think that it would be a good idea for us to see the latest plan.
Thank you, Mr. Tanzi. Mr. Hessian?
I'd be much more comfortable with a current set of plans.
I appreciate it, sir. Mr. Baker Jr.?
Agree entirely.
Appreciate that. Mr. Haynes, where are you? Where'd you go?
I agree.
Okay, I got that. And while you're not voting on it, but Mr. Baker, I think I know what your answer is going to be. Do you want to see an actual?
Yes.
Perfect. So yeah, we're definitely going to want to see the most recent set of plans that, again, the planning board did grant. And again, Attorney Galvin, will you be able to work with Mr. Ficarra and get him at least the planning board's email, so he can contact planning board and get that most recent decision and the most recent plans?
Yeah, I think Mr. Rader's on. I'm sure between one of us will get it to him immediately.
Okay, I just want to make sure that
one thing I'd like to add, Mr. Chairman, is that for the next meeting, we will definitely have Bracken Engineering, Don Bracken, representing at the meeting and can answer any question you have on the plans. And I think that was a short sight tonight that we should have had him here to do the same thing. But definitely for the next meeting, he'll be a part of it so that we can answer any questions you may have on any of the plans.
Perfect. I appreciate that, Mr. Rader. One of the thing that came up, Attorney Galvin mentioned the signage on the building. Those are going to be the only signs, just the signs on the building. There's not going to be any freestanding or anything like that. I'm asking Mr. Ficarra.
Yeah, I'll defer to Carrie Smith just for clarity, but for the illuminated signs on the building, those will be the only one fixed to the buildings. We did have a slide in the presentation discussing the grand opening, making sure that logistics were sound and traffic flow was efficient.
Yes, for grand opening, we will have A-frame signs, making sure that directional. And then the only other signs that we would kind of have are any type of spacing that it needs for COVID to have, but no promotions, no product promotions, no other signage promoting any of the retail other than directional.
What we've been able to do in the past is, because we have very specific sign bylaws, and our building commissioner is excruciatingly particular when it comes to our sign bylaws. I'd have to look them back up. I don't really want to right now, but I believe that the number of signs is not an issue at this point, but I know it is something that is within the bylaw. Whoever is responsible for looking at these signs, I would suggest that you, again, go through the bylaw, look at the overall square footage of the signs that you're proposing, permanent and temporary. You would need to, again, kind of dictate what you're planning on for the temporary, most specifically. You're definitely going to have to put down what is going to be permanent. You're going to have to publish what square footage is going to be, these signs are going to be overall. And the way we do that is overall length and width. I understand that they're they're individual letters, probably backlit sign, no direct illumination coming off of them. But in the end, we do have some very, very strict sign bylaws. What we've done in the past is one of the conditions would be any and all signage would have to be reviewed by the building commissioner, and then from there maybe subject to an additional zoning variance or something like that. So that way it takes it out of what we're dealing with for the special permit. But in the end, planning board is probably going to want to see that anyway. So while I'm not trying to gear you up for the planning board, I'm trying to gear you up for the planning board. All right. It's just, I know what they're going to want to see. I know what the building inspector is going to want to see. And I figure if we do this right, then maybe they look at it and say, oh, it's the same things that we saw. Okay, here's the additions. Okay, done. I'm not saying that's how it's going to work, but I mean, if you go in with guns blazing with everything, then it makes a better presentation for everybody. And again, I'm trying to help you. And
I appreciate that. We'll make sure that we review the bylines, and then also we can gather more pictures of our signage. We have many examples from all of our other grand openings and then other daily operations that we can pull that gives just a better overview picture.
Yeah, if you have any cut sheets or anything from your sign manufacturers, if you have anything like that you can bring in, even to the point where I'm looking at the architectural rendering. Your architect should be able to pull this up and do a quick square, 8.5 by 11 cut sheet of this with square footage. You'll be able to know based on what you said, based on what you're seeing here, if the number of signs attached to the building are going to work, if the square footage meets or goes over what our requirement is. You'll also be able to see if you're going to actually need a full-on variance for it. So, again, I think that'll help things. What else?
Bob, if I may.
I heard too many people at one time. Mr. Baker, I heard you first.
All signs have to go through the design review board, which is the planning board.
Yep. But the sign sizes, that's us. So, and then did I hear Mr. Galvin, Attorney Galvin?
Yes. I just want to share the screen again.
Please.
I saw these signs here as examples of directional signage, just to kind of a clue to the applicant. They will require your directional signs to be standardized signs that meet I forget the standard, the state standard or whatever it is, the federal standard, like DOT. They're DOT type standards. Sure. You won't be able to have the yellow. You might be able to have like ID required somewhere else, or but the exit only, and those will be standard traffic signs and colors and sizes. That's the one thing I wanted to mention. The sign bylaw is section 41545, and you're allowed to have two primary signs. So it's possible you could have more than one sunny side on the building, but then you'd lose the ability to have a pylon sign. So you'll have to decide how you want that to look in the end. And I will mention I've already emailed you the findings and conditions
Yep.
I didn't get everybody. I didn't get everybody on your team, but I got most of the people, and I got most of the people on the board. But I got to get one our new members' email too. So.
And the plan, were you able to get them the plan as well?
I don't think I have the plan. I'm at my home. I could possibly have it in my work email.
Again, I got it last minute, so I'll be it. I can forward that. I can forward that to you before I leave my office tonight.
I defer to what you say about. I was less concerned about this site plan because I knew that they'd be going for site plan review.
Mhm.
But I do understand your desire to see how that rear entrance works or doesn't, and where the parking's going to be. So I understand that.
The only other thing that I wanted to say about the signs is based on the architectural rendering, I see 3. I see 2 on the front and I see 1 on the side. So if you're going to go with that, which I don't see a problem with, but it would have to be just like fully discussed once we see sign size and everything. That may require an actual variance. So I don't know if we really want to.
Yeah. Well, if they don't give us the signs, what we've done in the past, Mr. Roser, is we've said sign has to comply with the bylaw.
Yeah.
So, and then they'll be stuck with whatever it is.
Mr. Chairman, just a point of clarification on
Yes,
the
sir.
signage. So I just want to be sure of the different sequencing for approvals we'll be looking to go through. Obviously, we'll need to run this by the building commissioner at some point, the design review board, and ZBA. Is there a specific sequence you'd like us to do that in?
ZBA, basically, we're saying whether you can or you can't.
Okay.
All right. I'm not tooting my own horn, my own board's horn, but we come first. That's number 1.
Okay.
Planning board, they look at does the design, meet the standard of the town of Rockland. When it comes to design, their word kind of hits home. Not to say that they would change any designs, anything that we would do, but it has happened in the past because they're the ones that make that decision. We do the best that we can because, again, we have a very knowledgeable board, but it's the planning board's decision when it really comes down to it. From there, you are going to have to go to conservation. Conservation is going to need to see this. As far as I know, and I don't know this, and Mr. Rader, if he's still online, he might be able to answer this question as to whether they went to. There you are, Mr. Rader. I know with the current COVID situation, our Conservation Commission has not been holding meetings. Did you guys go to Conservation for this?
Yeah, we did have a hearing with the Conservation Commission, and they ordered they've issued or they're about to issue their order of conditions.
Okay.
So we got approval. We got approval subject to them issuing their order of conditions.
All right, Mr. Ficarra, you are definitely going to need to see this order of conditions. You're definitely going to need to see a copy of the plan that the Conservation Commission is basically issuing their order of conditions on, because I haven't seen that one. That could be completely different. I don't know. I tend to doubt it, but there's definitely a miscommunication on plans here. So I would suggest that you definitely get that and make sure that it corresponds to the plans that the planning board sees, because sometimes when it comes to the planning board and their approvals, conservation sometimes comes after. Sometimes it runs at the same time. Sure. So sometimes the Conservation Commission will make changes to the plans, even though the planning board has already given their approval. So it can be a convoluted nightmare. So I would suggest.
And I appreciate you clearing that up for me. And so we're just writing this down and making sure we're checking every single one of those boxes and we're hitting everybody we can to make sure that we have a fulfilled application for you when we do come back.
That's perfect. And again, please do not think that I'm trying to beat up on Cresco.
No.
Like I said, the research that I did into this company has been top notch. All right. It's impressed me the team that you brought tonight has completely impressed me. So I don't want you to think that we're beating up on you, and it's just, we have to make sure that this is done right.
Not at all. Let me reciprocate by saying, when we started this conversation, one of the things I talked about was compliance is a big pillar for us. So we want to make sure we're doing this by the book with your body, and fulfilling everything that you guys need in order to make an informed decision.
I appreciate that, sir.
My last question for you, if I may. We're going to go back and make sure that we work with Mr. Rader and getting those approvals from the planning board updated and included into this next package.
I think Attorney Galvin said he just emailed that to you. So at least we can say that. If Mr. Galvin does not have that last plan that got approved, that the planning board approved, what I will do is I'll go through my email and I will forward that plan to Attorney Galvin. I'll ask Attorney Galvin to forward it to you. So at least that way you guys know that you have what the planning board saw. The last thing, so that'll take care of our end. The last thing that you need, the last plan that the Conservation Commission saw, and which should be the plan that they're writing their order of conditions on, because you'll be subject to, as far as I know, you'll be subject to their order of conditions unless they make you, because you're a new applicant. You're technically a new applicant for the same reason that that we're dealing with this now, and for the same reason that you're going to have to go to the planning board again.
Yep.
So
that was the follow-up to my question was, since we have approval from the planning board, does that mean we can move forward with the plans that they've approved and making sure that those plans are updated in our presentation for the ZBA?
I would suggest reaching out to the planning board and see if you can have a discussion with either the chairman, Mike Corbett, or the vice chairman, John Lucas. I'll tell you this, the best thing that you can probably do is make a phone call to the building department tomorrow morning, ask to speak to John Lucas. He just so happens to work in the building department. See if you can talk to him, see what his gut feeling is. He's going to have to talk to Mike Corbett, the chairman. We'll see what happens.
Sure.
And it would be a nice thing. You know, it would be a nice thing if they could just say, yep, all set. It would be a nice thing. But again, because of the transparency that's been going on, I can't guarantee it.
Totally get that, Chairman. I just want to make sure that if there are pieces in place already that we're prepared to move forward with that have been approved, that we can expedite it in that fashion, as opposed to going back to go and going all the way back around.
Oh, I do the same exact thing. I would do it. I would do exactly the same thing. Again, I would also try to reach out to the Conservation Commission and ask them the same question.
Fantastic. We'll do that first thing in the morning.
So you got that. What else do we got? At this point, I see a number of people that look like general public that may want to speak in favor or speak against. So I'm going to open up the floor to the general public. Is there anybody that would like to speak in favor of this application? And hearing none, I'm going to ask, is there anybody that wants to speak opposed? This is always the big one. Hearing none, I'm going to suggest that we talk about it a date here for continuance. What do we got going on between Attorney Galvin and Kim? What do we have for availability? And Mr. Ficarra, what do you think your team needs to be able to put this stuff together?
How's tomorrow afternoon for you guys?
Nice. I like this guy. All right.
Listen, I think it's safe to say we're really excited about the prospect of being here. So we'll be getting on this first thing in the morning. So whenever it's convenient for the group, hopefully sooner rather than later, so we can beat the holidays and everybody can have a little less work on their plate would be great for us.
Attorney Galvin, talk to me.
You have a November 17th date that's available. If they can get things updated and back to us before then, that would be the only matter on the 17th. Then we have potential hearing dates of December 1st and December 15th. There will be other matters on one or more of those dates.
There will be more on, do we know on the first?
Right now, we're right up against the deadline for the first, so that night might be a better night to pick than the 15th, where you'll probably have the other two hearings.
At least with the first, it gives it gives them 3
Actually,
weeks.
3 weeks.
You know, 3 weeks to get it together. And quite honestly, I think that, why am I getting a jillion texts here? Hold on. 12/29, 12/15 is Shingleman, not happening. Okay, so we're not, wait a second. 12/29, not working. 12/15, not happening. So December 1st, Kim, does that work?
Yep, December 1st, fine.
Okay, December 1st, Mr. Ficarra, do you and your team believe that you can have everything into us? I'm hoping by the 24th. That's Christmas. That's Christmas Eve.
November 24th?
Yeah, November 24th.
Yeah, that's November 24th. Okay, I'm looking at the wrong calendar.
Christmas
Can
Eve.
you get us everything by November 24th?
Count on it. We'll be working around the clock on this one.
Call Don Bracken then tomorrow too, because if he has to update plans, you got to remember that every surveyor and engineer right now is backed up, 100% backed up.
Yeah.
Everything that he's going to be doing is nothing but office work, so it shouldn't be too bad. But call town, call Mr. Bracken. Again, like I said, I think there's minimal that he's going to have to do on his end. You may want to, because again, if all you're going to be doing is submitting the plans that the planning board last saw, literally a re-forward of that PDF should cut it. So, and he really shouldn't have to do anything. Although an update of the landscaping plan, that's definitely one thing. And then your architectural rendering with good dimensions on the sign, so the square footages and stuff, so we can see that.
Lighting.
I think that should be it. Who said something?
Lighting, Bob.
Oh, the lighting plan. That's right. Thank you, Mr. Baker. I appreciate that. Yeah, some sort of lighting plan. Again, you can coordinate that, and that's site lighting. That's going to show lumens, and that's going to show where all the light's going to end up once you turn it on, whatever it is. I don't even know how to read one. I just know it's required. But our resident
appreciate the honesty.
I'm a surveyor. I know how to measure things. I don't know how to read. I don't know how to read lighting plans. Mr. Tanzi, on the other hand, as an engineer, he does know how to read them, and that's why that's why I need him.
So he'll know if I put it together on Photoshop.
As far as I'm concerned, it'll probably work, but
we'll get to professional.
If you can get that done, put that together, full package goes in. If you can get that to us on the 24th, then I'll entertain a motion to continue this to December 1st, and I'll entertain a motion for that. Do we have a specific time, Mr. Galvin, Attorney Galvin?
Just say 7:30, because that'll be the first night.
The first thing.
Yes.
Right.
By the way, I did locate the May plans and the 8/18 plans, and I'm in the process of emailing them to this development team here.
All right. Okay, so that takes care of that. So that's in a good situation. All right. So again, I would entertain a motion to continue this to December 1st at 7:30. Anybody?
Mr. Chairman.
I heard a motion by Mr. Baker Jr. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I got a second by Mr. Hessian. I need a roll call. Mr. Tanzi?
Yes.
Mr. Hessian?
Yes.
Mr. Haynes?
Yes.
Mr. Baker Jr.?
Yes.
Myself is a yes. All right, guys. You got your work ahead of you.
I think we're up to it.
I thank you for dealing with the moaning and complaining. I again, I just need to know that this is done 100% correct. It's just, it would be nice to see you guys come in. Again, from a company perspective, from a company aspect, you guys are number one. So I
really appreciate it.
I want to make sure you guys come in strong.
We plan on. And thank you again for the feedback. This was super helpful. We'll get everything together and make sure we get this turned around to the board.
Mr. Ficarra, I appreciate the time. Thank you for showing up tonight. All right, everybody. I need Mr. Galvin, unless there's anything else we need to talk about.
No. Well, those other two hearings that we talked about will be December 15th.
Okay.
All right. They're both manageable in one night.
Good. All right, everybody. I need Mr. Baker.
Do we have a list of what an applicant has to do to prepare for a meeting?
No, Mr. Ficarra had asked that before. I don't think we have an actual. We do have a list.
We have a set of rules. Yep, we do.
Yeah, we do. But I've never seen an actual, let's say, spreadsheet. Other than
when I was on the planning board, we had a list of what they had to get.
The site plan approval is a little bit more specific because it actually itemizes what they have to submit for site plan approval. The zoning bylaw doesn't, but we have a set of zoning rules that itemize this. I think the confusion in this particular case was because the property owner had a site plan approval, and I think they were relying upon it and then using that. But we'll get it squared away. I'll certainly help them get that done so that they can come in here and get the information that you all want.
The other way to look at it is when it comes to planning board, it is rules and regulations. There are rules and regulations for this that you can quantify. When it comes to zoning and special permits, it's up for interpretation. It's not something specific. It's up to the board's discretion as to whether we feel that the applicant meets the bylaw. So there's not, we have the bylaw. It says you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to do this, you need to do that. It's still up to the five to be able to look at it and go, does it work? So that ends up being
that answers the question.
I appreciate it, Mr. Baker. Thank you for bringing that up. At this point, I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
I got a motion to close the public hearing. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Hessian, I hear a second. I'm gonna need a roll call. Mr. Tanzi?
Yes.
Mr. Hessian?
Yes.
Mr. Haynes?
Yes.
Mr. Baker Jr.?
Yes.
Myself is a yes. All right.